Welcome back to Beyond the Buzzer, episode 6. Got some really big news this week. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great. NFL free agent frenzy is underway.
Yep, it's crazy, crazy signings all around the league. Got some teams making some huge moves. And we'll start off with the team that probably has made the most moves so far, the Patriots. Austin, tell me a little bit about what they've done.
So the Patriots are spending big. They signed Jalen Mills, Nelson Aguilar, Matt Judon, Cam Newton to an extension, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, and Kendrick Bourne, just to name the main guys that they have signed so far. They have spent the second most money ever behind the Dolphins of last year, and the Dolphins didn't even make the playoffs. So, Dylan, what are your opinions on all these signings?
This is so non-Bill Belichick-esque. Like we never see the Patriots spend this much money. I think they've spent like 400 million the last 10 years, and they go and spend 130 million in basically a day. So, this is not Bill Belichick like, but I mean, it's a new era in New England. Tom Brady's gone. They're revamping their organization, so, and they need these new guys. They're gonna have a whole new team next year. New wide receivers. They signed Philip Dorsett as well. They brought in Kendrick Bourne, as you said, have Jacoby Myers returning, Cam Newton, possibly another trade maybe. They're probably gonna stick with Cam Newton. Um, Pro Bowler Matt Judon, he was really good last year for the Ravens. Also Nelson Aguilar, another receiver like you mentioned, and they're just going to be a new look Patriots team, and maybe they can get back into the playoffs. What do you think about that?
Um, I think that the AFC East, I think it still belongs to the Bills for some reason. I don't think I think that the Patriots spent big. I really do. I think that some of these guys though were not worth the money they paid. Jalen Mills and Nelson Aguilar. And they also didn't need two tight ends with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. I guess it works with Belichick's system, but they did just draft two tight ends last year, really with their I think it was their third and fourth rounders. So it really didn't make sense, in my opinion, for them to sign both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, although they play two totally different positions. They're both tight ends, though. And Kendrick Bourne, I believe, got overpaid as well. Cam Newton, I really think has one more year in him in New England. I don't really see why maybe they signed him just to have a guy in front of Mac Jones if they get him at 15 for a year. But I still think Buffalo's the team to beat for the reasons of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen's connection together. I also do believe that they will be getting a running back in free agency. Maybe Chris Carson, maybe Kenyon Drake, or maybe they draft a guy like Najee Harris, or potentially now with all the Titans moves they've been making, and it seems like they're going into a rebuild, they could trade for Derrick Henry.
I don't know about that. The Derrick Henry asking price is sky high. He's a generational talent at running back. I think even if they are in a rebuilding mode, they're going to hang on to him. But to stay with the Patriots, I'm really confused about this double tight end signing. Like the Patriots did have Gronk, and they he did have a really great career there as a Patriot, but I don't know how this two tight end thing is going to work out. And they both have really big contracts. They both are very talented guys and have shown that they have ability to be top tight ends in the league, which I think they probably are already. John Smith is very underrated, and he didn't really have the counting stats last year, but I think he had like 9 touchdowns, which is still really good. And he's a very athletic guy. We've seen him make like a juggling one-handed catch in the AFC Championship game, so he definitely has the talent. Hunter Henry is really reliable guy, young guy. Belichick loves him, but I just don't know how that's going to mesh out. But I mean, if you have anyone to work it out, Bill Belichick, the mastermind, will. So yeah, is that it with the Patriots, or we want to talk about the draft? Maybe they pick up a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, potentially. I think at 15, the only guy that they would be potentially getting left would be Mac Jones. I don't think Fields falls there. So I think that Trey Lance will also be gone. Fields will be gone. Lawrence will definitely be gone, and same thing with Zach Wilson. But potentially they can get Mac Jones at 15, have a guy to sit under Cam Newton for a year. Also, they might overdraft Kyle Trask and take him at 15 because Belichick and Dan Mullen have the University of Florida in general just have a very good relationship with the Patriots. So there is potential that Kyle Trask does get extremely overdrafted and will be their first round pick. I really would not doubt it. But Mac Jones and Kyle Trask are very similar quarterbacks in the fact that they are both extreme pocket passers.
Yeah, they're more of like field general guys, game managers, more than like a Zach Wilson who's gonna be like a modern day QB. So I definitely could see the Patriots grabbing either one of them at that pick. But to move on from the Patriots, we were talking about the Titans. They lose Corey Davis and John Smith. What do you think about their future? And they also released Adoree Jackson. But yeah, what's up?
Yeah, there's a full rebuild going on there. Tannehill hasn't proven anything since they made it to the playoffs, and even after that large extension, I never believed he was the guy. I thought that it made no sense paying him so much money. I knew they were going to lose Corey Davis. They still have AJ Brown, so that was expected that they were going to lose Davis. Good signing for the Jets. I think that they fit his price range pretty well. I think that he does become a solidified wide receiver one. I think he will be better than Robbie Anderson ever was for them. So I think that was a very good signing for the Jets. On the other hand, for the Titans, they also lost Jonnu Smith, who was probably, and Corey Davis, who were probably in the top three in targets for them last year. So those were two huge losses. Adoree Jackson was their corner one. I really have zero idea why he's released unless he was extremely upset with the losses of Davis and Smith. But I just think it's going to go from a downward spiral from here. I think that Derrick Henry is going to be extremely unhappy with these three moves, and I think that he's going to want out.
Yeah, I mean, and in that same division, we have the Indianapolis Colts who just traded for Carson Wentz, and they're getting better. So I don't know what the Titans are doing. They're basically just relinquishing the division. I don't know if the trio of Tannehill and obviously Derrick Henry is one of the most dominant running backs in the league. But I don't know if Henry, Tannehill, and Brown could propel that team to the playoffs. They do have a good O line, and I saw they were trying to sign Derek Fisher. If that might be incorrect, but they definitely have their eyes on some free agents to fill those voids. And as you said, they did release Adoree Jackson. They traded for Desmond King in the middle of the year, so that is another corner, a defensive back. But I disagree with you. I don't think it's a total full rebuild. I think they might be able to sneak into a wild card spot, but they've definitely gotten worse with the losses of those three guys.
Yeah, I really don't foresee them beating the Colts, and especially after these moves. I think that these moves literally just took the Titans out of contention. Whatever they had is gone.
Hmm. Yeah, and let's talk about the Jaguars now. So they reportedly are signing Curtis Samuel, who was probably one of the bigger, not one of the bigger names, but one of the better wide receivers in this free agent class. And they also grabbed Shaquille Griffin from Seattle. What do you think about those two moves?
Urban Meyer is going to have an absolute field day with Curtis Samuel. He is going to have a field day with Samuel. Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel's player comparison for me is Percy Harvin. You saw what Urban Meyer did with Percy Harvin in college. There's going to be a lot of jet sweep plays. There's going to be a lot of involving Curtis Samuel in the run game. He also now has DJ Chark and he has Shiva Shavalt. They're just going to be giving these guys carries and touches, and they're going to be throwing little dump passes and letting these guys go. Trevor Lawrence has another solidified wide receiver and running back in the same scenario. They also have James Robinson, who's a very good running back after he proved it this year. I think Jacksonville's offense is going to be extremely dangerous, especially if they draft Lawrence, which seems to be the pick. And Shaquille Griffin was probably the number one corner on the board. They snagged him away from Seattle. I think that he is a very, very, very good defensive back, especially Jacksonville's weakness was defensive back last year, even after they drafted CJ Henderson. And they also just lost I think they lost what's his name? Sidney Jones in free agency. I think he's a free agent, but if he's still there, he's still there. He's still a corner two. But I think Shaquille Griffin automatically steps into the corner one role.
Yeah, speaking of Curtis Samuel, he's a guy that all every single NFL team would want on their team because he's so dynamic. He can be in the backfield, he can run jet sweeps, he can catch passes, he can do everything. So Trevor Lawrence and Curtis Samuel, like you said, Chenault, DJ Chark, James Robinson, that's going to be scary for years to come, and they're going to be a pretty good team on the offense. Got to keep upgrading on that defense. So I do like the Shaquille Griffin pickup. And hopefully they can be better than what 1-15, 15 game losing streak last year. I definitely think the tide is turning for the Jacksonville Jaguars though. Some good free agency stuff. So I guess we could talk a little bit about Kenny Galladay and a landing spot for him.
So Kenny Galladay, from what I've been hearing, wants $17 million average per year salary. Kenny Galladay also has been plagued with injuries. His full season, he led the NFL in touchdowns. When he played the full season, he had 11 touchdowns. The year before that, I think it was like 5. But he also had a career year in receptions 2 years ago for himself. Kenny Galladay is a legit wide receiver one when he's healthy. Would I pay him $17 million a year? Yes. Will the Giants pay him $17 million a year? Hell no. Um, I think that Kenny Galladay is worth the money. I think that if the Giants were to get him, he would be an insane signing because you could put him on the outside. You could also have Slayton on the outside, put a guy like Sterling Shepard at the slot, have Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley. That offense is amazing, especially if they still are going to be looking to bring in Kyle Pitts, which I think should be their number one priority this offseason after getting Galladay. I think that offense is absolutely dangerous. I think that's what the Giants should do, but they're also making a lot of other moves, and they just signed John Ross. So
Yeah, Kenny Galladay is the guy that the Giants have been needing since they traded Odell Beckham Jr. They need that solid wide receiver one that can go out there and create separation and help Daniel Jones. And they haven't had that with Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. Although they are good receivers, they're not that wide receiver one guy. The Giants did sign Leonard Williams to a monster deal, 3 years, 63 million. That's 21 million a year, and it's a lot of money. But the Giants needed to do it, and they do get back one of their better D tackles. Last night they did lose Dalvin Tomlinson, their other D tackle, so that allows Dexter Lawrence to step in. What do you think about those two moves? Is that Leonard Williams move an overpay? And also, what do you think about Dalvin Tomlinson on the go?
I I think I do not believe that it was an overpay. People are going to say I'm crazy. I don't think they overpaid for him. I think that 3 years for 63 was the right contract for him. It also opens up $6 million now that the franchise tag is gone. That was my thing all along. They should have never franchise tagged him and gave him the long-term extension before free agency started. They should have franchise tagged Dalvin Tomlinson. Huge mistake the Giants made there. They could have had both. Instead, they only have one. He's getting a little bit less than Aaron Donald. That part I'm not too fond of. I think that he wasn't worth what Aaron Donald is worth, but I think that he is better than DeForest Buckner. Um, I think that I think that Leonard Williams will not be coming off the edge this year. I think he will be playing tackle next to Dexter Lawrence. I also think the Giants will try to bring in an edge rusher, whether it be via free agency and trying to bring in Hassan Reddick, or they're going to draft one in the second or the first round for that matter. I just think that getting Leonard Williams back was a huge signing for the Giants. They invested long term in that. 3 years is a pretty long time for him, especially after he only proved it 1 year that he was worth it with the Giants. But it could pay off. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it is a good signing, and they needed to pay him the money. If he wanted a lot of money. He wanted definitely north of 19 million a year, and I mean he got it. He him and his agent negotiated correctly. They got him the money, so props to him. Congrats for getting your payday. I honestly would have been pretty disappointed if the Giants lost Leonard Williams in free agency, and I'm glad he is back. He had 11 and a half sacks last year, bunch of QB pressures. He was the backbone of that Giants defensive line who actually drastically improved from the year before. So yeah, I am really glad he's back. The Giants still desperately need edge rushers. They do not get a lot of edge pressure. A guy like Hassan Reddick could be a possible opportunity, but with the Giants' limited cap now because of all those signings, John Ross, Devontae Booker, we didn't talk about yet, and Leonard Williams, they don't have a lot of cap left. I think it's around 8 million. I think because Leonard Williams' cap hit was adjusted for this year, which was good for the Giants, but not that much money to spend, but definitely enough to sign a guy like Galladay, which could be obviously amazing for the Giants. Um, but yeah, Leonard Williams, great signing. I'm glad they got him back. Needed to pay him the money, and we can talk a little bit about Devontae Booker if you want. I mean, not much to talk about.
I think that he's a downgrade from Wayne Gallman. I think that he matches Barkley better than Gallman would, but as a backup running back, as a running back too, I don't think he's as good as Wayne Gallman is. I think that Wayne Gallman is a better runner of the football. Wayne Gallman was a downhill runner, and I think that Booker is here to be more involved in the passing game, which is one of the weaknesses of the Giants, especially after how Dion Lewis performed last year. I think that Booker will be better than Dion Lewis. I do not think he'll be better than Gallman though was.
hmm I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to the signing. Devontae Booker did step in pretty well for Josh Jacobs when he was hurt last year, and obviously Saquon Barkley, we have seen the last 2 seasons isn't gonna. Hopefully he'll be there for 16 games, but there is a very good chance that he's not. So if we need Devontae Booker to start 2 or 3 games, I'm comfortable with that. 6 million for 2 years is still a pretty high price to pay, but I mean Gallman was probably going to ask for equal, if not more. So I'm not really upset by that. Dion Lewis did have a good year, but Devontae Booker will be a good guy in the backup for Saquon Barkley, definitely. So we can move on to Richard Sherman, rumoring to go to the Saints. What do you think about that?
I think that he's an upgrade from Janoris Jenkins. I think that Janoris Jenkins is getting older. I think that so as well as Richard Sherman, he's getting older as well. I think that Sherman is a better corner though. I think that Richard Sherman is going to play. He plays very well in zone, and I think that New Orleans is going to run more zone scheme next year, especially with Lattimore coming back again. I think they're going to try to restructure him a little bit so they have a little bit more cap space. But I also think they'll still draft a corner, even if they draft a guy like Richard Sherman, because Richard Sherman's more of a safety than a corner, in my opinion. Now,
Richard Sherman is definitely a little bit of a wild card this year. We knew he wanted out of San Francisco, but we didn't really know where he was going to go. So there are rumors he's going to the Saints. So that's not 100% set in stone. Could be a pretty good landing spot for the Saints, though, if they want to keep themselves in that title of contender. And speaking of the Saints, Drew Brees is retired. Congratulations, Drew Brees, great career. But now there's the question: who's going to be the starter? They re-signed Jameis Winston 1 year, 12 million. Re-sign Taysom Hill on a huge extension, 4 year, 140 million. And what do you think about that QB position now, Austin?
I think they should have let Winston walk. I didn't think that he was going to win the job from the beginning. I think Taysom was the backup last year. He played those games when Breeze was out and hurt. Winston, I think, is a below average passer. I think that his vision is his issue. I think that he throws a lot of interceptions, which isn't great. I think Taysom Hill is more polished. But the thing with Taysom Hill is that Taysom Hill also just got this massive extension, although it's really not going to be a massive extension. It helps them with the cap anyway. I think that Taysom Hill also can be effective in the pass game, which is really, really big. But I really thought that Taysom Hill, keeping him there was huge. And I think that they should have drafted a quarterback instead of signing Winston for $12 million. What about you?
I kind of disagree with you. I think Jameis Winston should and could still definitely be a starting quarterback in this league. Like if the Patriots would have signed Jameis Winston, I think that would have been better than Cam Newton. Um, but you got to remember he threw for 5,000 yards 2 seasons ago on the Buccaneers, and they had good wide receiver weapons. What are you laughing about? They
No,
had good receivers.
I was gonna say, I was gonna tell you, I was like, think about who their wide receivers are. They had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and they had OJ Howard. And now think about where they are with Tom Brady as a quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, Jameis Winston he's still a gunslinger. He can put the ball on the money on the for deep balls. He does throw a lot of interceptions. Obviously, he threw 30, right? If 30, I think,
I
which is
think
which is
so.
awful, which is terrible. But he's shown that he can be a starting quarterback through his years in throughout the Buccaneers, which I think. And I think him and Taysom Hill are going to battle for that spot. Now, Taysom Hill did go undefeated, I believe, right when Drew Brees was injured. He did go undefeated. I just think Jameis Winston has a better arm than him, and Taysom Hill is that Swiss Army knife where they could do a bunch of like QB power plays and draw plays and read option, and he's so versatile that way. But I think Jameis Winston is a better true quarterback that can put the ball in the money. Feed Michael Thomas and get the Saints back into that contention.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that that's fine. I think that Winston is I don't know if he's more polished than Taysom Hill is. I think that Winston throws the ball around a lot. And are you really willing to have 30 interceptions for 40 touchdowns? Are you willing to take more interceptions? He's a guy that's going to he might throw more interceptions than he throws touchdowns.
Bears just signed Andy Dalton, by the way. Just got a notification. What do you think about that? I don't know. Starting
Okay.
quarterback Andy Dalton is back.
No, they have three quarterbacks now. They have, now they're not going to draft a quarterback at 20. Now I know they're drafting offensive tackle, but they have Trubisky, they have Foles, and they have Dalton. Like the Foles and Dalton are the same quarterback to me. They're the same player. And getting a guy like Mitch Trubisky, who's completely hot or cold, is just another guy. It just is appalling to me how they just think that they can get away with it, signing aging quarterbacks and have them play well.
Yeah, it's a mess in Chicago. And honestly, like if they could trade for Russell Wilson, I think that would be so good. Obviously, that's probably never going to happen. But I don't think that this Andy Dalton move um, is going to solve their quarterback problem in Chicago. He played decent in Dallas last year. He was a pretty good backup, but I don't think I don't think he's worth a starting job anymore. And I think it was $10 million that they just paid him, if I stand corrected.
That's
Yep,
poor management. That's poor management.
1 year, $10 million deal. So that's definitely not worth it for a guy like Andy Dalton. I think he was being paid even less last year. So questionable move by the Bears there.
Poor front office. This is why they'll never. This is why they'll never win. I have a family member who's a Bears fan. They will never win a Super Bowl if they keep signing these subpar, mediocre quarterbacks. Enough said. Going off of that, Corey Linsley, he just became the highest paid center for the Chargers. What do you think about that? How is that going to impact a guy like Justin Herbert, young quarterback, and their running back in Austin Eckler?
I mean, I think Corey Lindsey was what, first team All Pro last year, if I stand corrected. So technically best center in the league. He does become, it was a 5 year deal, highest paid center in the league. He definitely deserved it, as he was first team All Pro, and I think it's going to be a huge help to the Chargers. Keeping Justin Herbert in the pocket, allowing him to dish the ball out, keep him safe, don't let him get hit. It's a pretty good signing by the Chargers, and it'll definitely benefit Austin Eckler as well, who is a great running back, and overall just help the Chargers in the long run. That'll be a great signing. What do you think about that and Corey Lindsey?
I think that it very helps Justin Herbert a lot. I think that he just got a lot better for next year, especially in fantasy. I think that Austin Eckler was a very good receiving back before. Now he's going to be even better because now more lanes are going to be opened up for him in the pass game and in the run game. I still think that they should draft an offensive tackle, just another guy just to protect Herbert because he is a young guy. They also need to draft a tight end. I don't know if they'll move up ahead of the Giants and try to snag Pitts, but especially after Hunter Henry left, I think they need another tackle or a tight end just to help block a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. They got to fill that Hunter Henry void. They have a pretty average receiving core. They have Keenan Allen, guys like Michael Guyton, Mike Williams, but nothing special. And I think drafting a tight end in the draft could be a really big help for them. Who is that tight end? Give me like the top 3 tight ends in the draft.
Top 3 tight ends in the draft are Kyle Pitts is number 1. Number 2 is going to be Pat Fryermuth. He's the tight end from Penn State. And the third best tight end is Brevin Jordan from University of
Yes,
Miami.
that's the guy. He's good. I saw tape of him. He's pretty good.
His blocking abilities are lackluster, but he's a very good pass catcher.
Yeah, he's a good pass catcher in the open field. He's big too. He's fast. He's pretty good. So to move back to the NFC East and the Washington football team, they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. Was it a 1 year deal, I think?
1 year deal? 1 year, I think it was $10 million. Another overpaid quarterback.
Yeah, another overpay, just like the Andy Dalton deal. Rumors are him and Taylor Heineke are going to battle it out for the starting spot. It could honestly go either way. I think they're going to probably give it to Fitzpatrick just based on the veteranship and the leadership and the experience he has. But Taylor Heineke played really well in the playoffs, so I think he could go either way. I just don't.
They also have Kyle Allen.
Yeah, but
Kyle Allen. You want to know what that sounds like to me?
What?
Sounds like 2 more wins for the Giants this year.
Let's go.
So Leonard Fournette has an offer to stay in Tampa. Seattle is interested as well. Do you think that he will stay in Tampa, try to run it back? Brady took a pay cut. Gronk got $10 million. Shaquille Barrett got a long-term deal. You think he tries to stay, become the running back by committee with Ronald Jones, or takes the number 1 duty in Seattle?
So it all depends on Chris Carson, to be honest, with those 2 teams. If the Seahawks do re-sign Chris Carson, Leonard Fournette will stay in Tampa Bay. Obviously, he's not going to want to be a running back two. He's shown that he definitely 100% is capable of being the running back one. I think he's better than Ronald Jones. Um, if Chris Carson signs elsewhere, I think Seattle could be a good spot for him. But if I'm Leonard Fournette, I'm probably just sticking with the Buccaneers. Tom Brady brought me in, won me a Super Bowl. He had a great playoff series, so or a great string of playoff games. If I'm Leonard Fournette, I'm staying with the Buccaneers. What about you?
I'd agree. If I'm Leonard Fournette, I'm staying. And if I'm Chris Carson, I am going to Buffalo. I think that having a team of Josh Allen and Chris Carson, who's so much better than Devin Singletary and Stephon Diggs, is deadly. I think that Chris Carson can have a better year this year than Najee Harris. I don't know about, let's say, 2 years or 3 years from now, if Chris Carson will be better than Najee Harris. I really don't believe so. I think that Najee Harris is a generational type talent, but I don't think he'll be there at pick 30 for them. So I think that Chris Carson could either go to Buffalo and become the running back 100%, beat out Singletary, or he can go to Arizona. I think that he stays the number one running back there. I think that he could sign there and Kenyon Drake goes elsewhere. I think that Chris Carson's a much better running back than Kenyon Drake as well.
Yeah, I agree. Chris Carson's definitely more versatile. Arizona's offensive line situation isn't great. So if I'm Chris Carson, honestly, Buffalo looks like a great spot for me. They just made the AFC Championship. They are in need of a great running back. So Chris Carson could definitely fit that mold. They already have Stephon Diggs, as you said, and Josh Allen, who was arguably what top three quarterbacks in the league last year, probably maybe number two behind Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, behind Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron
Mahomes.
Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen.
Fair. Fair enough.
So top three. So yeah, that could be a good spot for him. Kenyon Drake, I honestly don't really know. I don't think like Kenyon Drake is a little overhyped. Like he was a second round pick in fantasy last year. Like that's not Kenyon Drake, dude. What do you think about that?
I don't know where I could see Kenyon Drake right now, realistically. There's not many teams that are so running back heavy that they need a running back one. And I can't find a fit that I absolutely love for him. I think that if he goes to Seattle and Carson was to go to Buffalo, I think that he could be the running back one in Seattle. Him and Rashad Penny, because he's going to be coming back from injury next year. I think that's a pretty good 1-2 running back combo. But other than that, I really just can't think of an option where he could be like the number one solidified back on any team, because especially after how he underperformed this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Drake is overhyped, and I don't know if he's a solid running back one in the league. Speaking of running backs, we have Aaron Jones, who re-signed 4-year, $48 million deal, I believe, right? So he's back with the Packers. A lot of people thought he was going to leave. What do you think about that deal?
So originally, I thought he was going to go to Miami. There was a lot of hype about him going to Miami. I think they had a bigger offer than Green Bay did. I think that he decided to stay in Green Bay because he knows what he has there. He has the number one running back position to himself. I mean, AJ Dillon and Jamal Williams take some carries away from him, but that also benefits them because the Green Bay front office really likes how all three of them mesh together. Jones is really dynamic. He plays a playmaker role just like Alvin Kamara does with the Saints. I think that Jones is a very good receiving back. There was a point in the season where he was probably the best running back in all of fantasy football. I think that he's a type of guy that he has Aaron Rodgers and a very good offensive line. They're just going to be trying to find him the ball all the time, especially if they don't draft a receiver, although they really need to, especially now that they don't have a wide receiver too. I think that having a guy like Aaron Jones just to fall back on, and they didn't even pay him so much. I think that what he got was a good number. I know he would have got more money if he tested the market though, but I'm glad that he's back in Green Bay.
Yeah, that is a good deal for the Packers. They stay with their guy. 4-year, 48 is honestly not that much compared to what guys like Christian McCaffrey has got, like 4-year, 64, I think. And obviously McCaffrey's the number one running back in the league, but Aaron Jones isn't too far behind. He's probably top six, and 4 years, 48 is a good deal. I just got another notification on my phone. Um, Texans are signing Tyrod Taylor. So what does this mean with the Deshaun Watson saga in Houston?
I'd say that Deshaun Watson has a nice backup. I don't think Watson's getting moved as pissed off as he is. I think that he's staying there. I think that unless Carolina comes up with an offer like we'll give you eight our first next year, our first year after that, our first year after that. and maybe even Christian McCaffrey. And I still don't, and Brian Burns for that matter. And they're still not going to even do that. There's no way that Watson's getting moved unless the 49ers go come up with a package or the Panthers come up with a package. The Bears are out of the sweepstakes now because they just signed Andy Dalton. There's just no teams that really want him bad enough to trade 3 first-round picks and your 2 best players. So I think that Tyrod Taylor's a good backup. He was a good backup last year for the Chargers, but nothing's going to happen there.
And judging by how the Texans haven't pulled the trigger on a trade, they're, as you said before, there's not really a great market for Deshaun Watson. And, I mean, obviously Deshaun Watson is a great player, but teams aren't willing to give up so much. Like I don't think the Panthers would include McCaffrey in a deal. They probably could include a bunch of picks, including their 8th pick.
Correct.
Yeah, but I don't think like it's such a high asking price. And judging by the fact that Houston is yet to deal him and is very stubborn and wants to keep him, I don't think he will get dealt, unfortunately, because I do want to see Deshaun Watson in a change of scenery. And honestly, like he might even opt out of the season if he's still there.
I think the Jets could make a package. I honestly do. I think that if the Jets want to make a run now, they can. I think that I think them and the Panthers are the 2 teams to get him. I think that if the Jets were willing to part ways with the 2nd overall pick, I think that they can get it done. And I think that Robert Saleh would be very, very happy having a guy that he knows because he's going to be in charge of the defense. And he has a guy that with the offense that he knows he could trust in Deshaun Watson. I think that could be very helpful. The question becomes, what will the Jets be willing to give away? Would that look like the 2nd overall pick this year, their 1st rounder next year, their 1st rounder the year after that, and Quinnen Williams? Maybe. I mean, if I'm the Jets, am I considering that heavily? Yes, because that can bring me a championship, bringing in a guy like Deshaun Watson automatically.
Yeah, and I don't know about championship, but the Jets could definitely put together a pretty good package to get Deshaun Watson. And if they do, having Robert Saleh as such a great defensive-minded coach and him being the head coach now, I think with a reliable defense, and you obviously have Deshaun Watson, who is amazing on the offensive side of the ball. I think those 2 things together can definitely put them in a position to win the wild card, as we have the Buffalo Bills still winning that division. But that is interesting. Tyrod Taylor to the Texans. Maybe the Texans now will be more lenient and maybe listen to more offers about Deshaun Watson and give him away. We don't know yet, but we will see. Personally, I hope Deshaun Watson is out. So yeah, do we want to talk a little bit more about the Giants? I know about the John Ross signing.
Yeah, I am very, very, very happy. I'm a very happy guy. John Ross is an amazing signing. Hear me out. Here's why. John Ross was the 9th overall pick in, I think it was
17,
2017.
fourth year in the league.
Yes, 2017, John Ross was his 9th overall pick. In college, in his junior season, he had 81 receptions, 1,150 yards, and 17 touchdowns. John Ross is also one of the best kick returners in college when he was in college football. John Ross is an upgrade to Cody Core. The Giants released Cody Core for $2.5 million, and they just signed John Ross for $2 million. So they're saving money, they're upgrading, and John Ross has the potential to be one of the best wide receivers signings this offseason just because of how bad his situation was with the Bengals. And now he has no pressure. So now if John Ross could just be himself, he could be an elite wide receiver.
Yeah,
And
a
this is
change of
why.
scenery is so important to John Ross's future. He was really unhappy with the Bengals. He wanted to be traded. He had like 2 catches for 7 yards last year in like the first game. He wanted out 100%. And I think the Giants could be a great spot for rejuvenation for him. He's probably, if Galladay is signed, he'll be the wide receiver 4. But he could line up well in the slot. I don't really think he's that much of a slot receiver. I think he's more of an outside guy. But I think he would be an amazing weapon for $2 million. I think it was $2 or $2.5 million. Huge upgrade for the Giants. High risk, high reward. If it does pan out, amazing signing. And I think Gettleman has some tricks up his sleeve. Some underrated guys last year, Blake Martinez, James Bradbury, Kyler Fackrell were all great this year. This could be another one of Gettleman's masterpieces. Now, to speak on Gettleman, I want to defend my guy Gettleman. drafting for the past couple of years has been eh. And I don't want to hear people being upset about Daniel Jones' draft because what if we drafted Dwayne Haskins? That would have been even worse. So props to Gettleman for actually getting that pick right. Otherwise, not amazing. He did get Darius Slayton. He has gotten a guy like Dexter Lawrence. So the drafting is a bit subpar, but the free agent signings last year, it was amazing. He got James Bradbury, who's a Pro Bowl cornerback. He got Blake Martinez, who was tied third in the league in tackles and was the backbone of our defense, along with Jabril Peppers. But I mean, Dave Gettleman gets a lot of hate, and I do understand why. But he's not that bad considering the free agent signing he's made. And I think John Ross could be another point to prove that Dave Gettleman belongs as the Giants GM for the future. Hot
I,
take.
I agree. I agree, Dylan. It's not a hot take if I agree. Um, I think Dave Gettleman is the guy for the job. I think that he is perfect for New York. I think that our fan base is dying for another Super Bowl, and I think that Gettleman will be the guy to bring
Not
it
even
to
a
us.
Super Bowl, just a good team. Just a good team.
No, we're gonna have a Super Bowl within the next few years. Mark my words. Hear me out. I think that he's gonna make the right pick this year, although it might not be the flashiest. He says he wants a playmaker. I don't know what side of the ball that playmaker will be on, whether that be Jalen Waddle, whether that be Devonta Smith, whether that hopefully is Kyle Pitts, or if that's Micah Parsons and he has to deal with his character issues. I think that Dave Gettleman's the right guy for the job. I think that he's going to rebuild this team that it's already halfway done. It's already halfway done. He needs to make a few more signings. I think if they bring in Kenny Galladay and they bring in Kyle Pitts, their offense is fantabulous.
Oh yeah.
They need to bring in an edge rusher. They have to try to afford Hassan Reddick, get a guy who could come off the edge, let Leonard Williams play defensive tackle where he played in college, let have Dexter Lawrence, who's proven to have a very good season at the other tackle position, and you have an elite corner in James Bradbury. You draft another corner in the draft, and there you go. There's your defense. That right there can be the formula to winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot easier said than done, but Gettleman is in the perfect position to strike on some free agents and some draftees this year. John Mara and him both agree that they do need offensive playmakers. They were second to worst or second to last in the league, right in front of the Jets in offensive points per game, which is just a disgrace. So they need offensive playmakers. They need to draft offense in the first round, 100%. Unless and maybe like a corner, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, I don't know, but they need to draft offense. Whether that's Kyle Pitts, maybe Devonta Smith falls, Jalen Waddle, one of those three guys. I hope we can get because we need a guy. If we don't get Kenny Galladay, Jalen Waddle's the perfect guy for the Giants to fill in that wide receiver one spot. In my opinion, I think he's a wide receiver one immediately. But yeah, overall, offensive playmakers is what the Giants need. Edge rusher, probably second priority, but that is a pretty huge void to fill.
I think that if there's a conversation that goes on between Joe Judge and Nick Saban about which wide receiver to draft, he will tell him the better of the two for the Giants to draft. I think that I really don't think the Giants will get Jamar Chase. I don't think he's falling out of the top 10. But I think that a playmaker doesn't only have to be on the offensive side of the ball. I think that a playmaker could also mean an offensive lineman. I think an offensive lineman could also change this a little bit. I think a guy like Elijah Vera Tucker can be a playmaker for the Giants. I think he would open up the run game for Barkley immensely, which has been a huge issue, especially how bad the Giants' offensive line has been for so many years after they won the Super Bowl. I think that adding another offensive tackle or a guard to go along with Nick Gates, who had a fantabulous season, a young Andrew Thomas, another young tackle in Matt Pert if he becomes a starter. I think
Lemieux.
that adding a guard could be amazing. But I think that getting another wide receiver or Kyle Pitts, I think Kyle Pitts is the perfect player for the Giants. I think he opens off the offense a lot. He could block, he could catch, and he's just what the Giants need. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, and speaking of the offensive line, when Wayne Gallman was playing in the second half of the season, honestly, the offensive line was looking pretty good. The Giants were like top five in rushing yards in like a span of 5 games, or it was like they were like top three or something. And the offensive line was getting Wayne Gallman down the field. And that Seattle game, the running game won them that game, 100%. Cole McCoy, I don't even think he had more than 100 passing yards, and he had a pick. That was Evan Ingram's fault. Speaking of tight ends, Kyle Pitts, come on. But Yeah, the running game did open up in the second half of the season. The Giants probably should have used it a little bit more in that like Cardinals game. Some of the games like they could have used the running game more because it was so successful previously. Why not use it? Um, and I think if the Giants don't draft an O lineman, or if they maybe save a couple rounds and wait a couple rounds and get another guy to maybe develop and sit behind someone else, that isn't bad. Shane Lemieux from Oregon had a pretty good rookie season. Stepped in for Will Hernandez after he had those COVID issues and kind of switched off with him. We still had Matt Pert backing up Cam Fleming, right? Cam Fleming still on the team, who
Correct.
isn't that good. Maybe Matt Pert can get in the starting lineup this year. Nick Gates, I think he played every single snap last year. Andrew Thomas, hopefully he can be the lineman we thought he was going to be when he was at Georgia. And I think the Giants do have a pretty good future considering that offensive line.
Yeah, they still also have. They're also brought back Nate Solder. They restructured him instead of releasing him. So Gettleman better have something up his sleeve about that. And they also brought back Spencer Pulley. He has one more year on his deal. I think it's like $2 million. He's a center. He's a backup to Gates, it seems. But I think that Pulley, they extended him for a reason as well. I think that they have the pieces to form an offensive line. They just need to figure out who's going to play where on that
Mhm.
offensive line to create the most space.
Yeah, I think the Giants signed a new offensive line coach, or I'm not 100% sure, but they got a new one in the middle of last season. I don't know if they get like another guy in the off season, but we're definitely going to see some improvement in the offensive line. I think in the next couple years, or if not this year, which is definitely going to help Saquon Barkley, as you said, holes opening up, and yeah, it's going to be great for the future. All right, so we have some other underrated signings. Speaking of edge rushers, which is what the Giants need. A guy like Yannick Ngakwe was just signed to the Las Vegas Raiders. I was about to say Oakland. They got another guy, Trey Hendrickson from the Saints, is on the Bengals now. So what do you think about those two signings?
I think that Oakland's number one need in the draft ever since they got rid of Khalil Mack has been an edge rusher. And I think that Yannick Ngakwe will be in his shadow a little bit. I think Ngakwe is a very, very good pass rusher. He's been moved so many times during his short career so far, I would say. He's been with the Vikings, he's been with the
Jaguars, Ravens.
Jaguars, Ravens. He's been all over the place. I think that staying in Oakland for a little bit for him might be a little. I hope it really lasts a long time, but we'll see with him. I think that having Trey Hendrickson come to the Bengals is a nice move. They have another edge rusher, especially after Shaq Lawson just got moved on from. I think an underrated signing that I really liked a lot was John Johnson III. He played for the Rams. He's a really, really good safety, and he's going to Cleveland. And I think Cleveland's number one need for years, ever since they drafted Grant Delpit, has been safety. And I think now they may have addressed that. And I think that Johnson has even Jalen Ramsey was commenting on it, how good of a signing it was. So I think that adding John Johnson and having Samson, the edge rusher, I can't pronounce his last name, to go to the 49ers. He got a 2-year deal.
Oh, it's
He,
Samson Abukum.
yeah,
Abukum?
I think, yeah, you could butcher the last name for me. Yeah, he's a great edge rusher. He proved a lot when he was with the Rams, and I think that he will translate very well over to the 49ers.
Yeah. I think John Johnson is actually really good. He had like a nice breakout season this year. Where'd he go again?
Boston College.
No. And NFL. What team did he just sign?
You can fact check me. Oh, okay. The Browns. I think
I'm
the Browns.
blanking. Okay, yeah. Browns are gonna have a really nice defense this year. And if Baker Mayfield can play like he did in the second half of the season, they're getting Odell back, getting Jarvis Landry back, have Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They're gonna be looking pretty scary. I think they're gonna be winning that division. After those improvements we've seen in the past year. So yeah, honestly, a lot of stuff happening recently. Do we want to talk about March Madness for a little bit? A little preview?
Yeah, let's go into it. So the brackets are out. Your one seeds are Baylor, Illinois.
Michigan.
I think Illinois is a one.
Yeah, Baylor, Illinois, Michigan,
Gonzaga,
Gonzaga.
and what's the last one? I think I'm blanking.
Gonzaga.
Michigan's a one? I don't think Michigan got the one.
Michigan,
I said
Illinois,
Gonzaga.
Baylor, Gonzaga.
Michigan got a one? I didn't know Michigan got a one. No, you sure that Michigan got the one seed?
Yeah, it's Michigan.
Michigan got the one. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Mhm.
So for some underrated March Madness picks, I think some teams that will go far that no one is expecting. University of California, Santa Barbara. Hear me out. They won their division. They play Creighton first round. Creighton is one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the nation. They have games when they're very cold and they miss a lot of shots. And if UCSB, I have to keep saying it slow or else I'm going to butcher the name. If they play well and they have a guy from New Jersey named Josh Pierre-Louis, he was a high school superstar. He translated very well over to the college game. He played at Temple. Now he's there. I think that they can go far in this tournament, and everybody just watch out.
Yeah. What are they, like a 13 seed, 12 seed, 12
They're
seed
12.
Creighton. Let's see, who's my underdog? I don't know. I think I might have to go with Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham. Um, he's gonna be, I think, unanimous number one overall pick. He's led Oklahoma State to a really great season. I think they are a 4 seed. Am I correct on that? I'm not sure.
The fact
A pretty tough bracket and a pretty tough matchup, but I think Cade Cunningham is really good. They do have a good surrounding cast. So I think he can lead them to a pretty good tournament run this year.
Yeah, the fact that Oklahoma State is allowed to play, especially after they had that recruiting ban at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, they shouldn't have been even allowed to be in the tournament. And now they're a 4 seed all of a sudden. So the fact that they're even in it, I think, is going to motivate them a little bit more to play very well. So they could just prove that, okay, we paid our recruits. We figured that out. We illegally recruited. I think they paid them. I'm not too sure. But even if, I mean, college recruitment usually has some money laundering involved anyway. I think that they can go far. I think that Cade Cunningham is probably my number one player in the nation. So we could see how far they go. Another underdog team that I really, really like, although they're not rated as an underdog, is Illinois. I mean, no one was expecting Illinois to be this good at the
Yeah.
beginning of the season. Kofi Cockburn has been unbelievably very, very good this year. He's a very good center. AO is unbelievable at dribbling. He has the Mamba mentality. You see his post on Instagram. I'm a very, very big fan of AO. I think that Illinois could also make a pretty deep run into the tournament.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot about March Madness next week once some of the games get done. Who is your winner? Who's taking home the chip this year?
My team that's going to take it home this year is the Florida Gators. No, the team that will take it home this year will be. I would have said Gonzaga yesterday, but today I'm not feeling it. No, today's winner is going to be Illinois. That is subjected to change. I watched a little bit of tape. I think that AO and Kofi are going to make it work.
Yeah, my winner is Illinois as well. I don't watch a lot of college basketball. From what I've watched, I mean, they just won the Big Ten. Big Ten had, I think, 10 teams this year in the tournament. They were the best conference in college basketball this year. Illinois won it all in that conference. So I think they definitely have the potential. They have some star power in those two guys you said, Ao and Kofi. So I think they could make a pretty magical run after really no one expected them to be this amazing this year. So yeah, I think that's it. Is that all we got?
Yeah, that's all we got. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Peace.